let's go back in time.
Okay.
To 1998. When you first walked in whatever door it was, and I'm beginning to think it was probably the West Center or East Center?
East Center.
East Center. And from what I understand, well, you tell me, what was that like when you
There was a little room. When I say little, I'd say maybe 40 feet long, and then there was a big closet at the back of it. And they actually had a liquid darkroom. They could do black and white prints, enlargements, what have you. So they had, 3 and 4 enlargers, a dark room, and they had a studio set up where they had some paper rolls, but the problem was the ceiling was only like 8 feet tall. So it was really hard to get them rolls of paper in there and do much with it. But they tried. And I remember going to the first meeting. There were less than 20 people there, and they didn't do anything but show a couple slides and talk about some things they did years ago. That's why I kid and say they just sat around listening to their arteries harden, because it wasn't terribly exciting, to say the least. I wasn't sure I was going to go back, and I went back the next month, and another new member joined, Don Spear, and Don and I had bought the first digital cameras. He bought a DSLR and I had a digital point and shoot. And we took a bunch of pictures. He had a big printer because he had more money than he knew what to do with. And we made some big prints and they put them up for display and people went nuts. Everybody wanted a digital camera then. And the club decided that what they would do is they would offer a free photography class, 10 weeks. And Carl Sparfeld organized it, and various members taught sections of it. And if you, I forgot how it worked. If you took a membership in the camera club at that time, you got the class for free. And the class was your reward for signing up. And I think the first time around, we had like 40 people sign up for it. It was phenomenal. And we had to move it to a bigger location. And finally, the club grew and probably had, close to 100 members. They didn't fit in there anymore. And GVR had just acquired this building. They got it because the builder, it wasn't in GVR. And the builder went bankrupt. And he didn't know what to do with this building. So he donated to GVR. It was empty inside. There were no walls, not just a big barn. And so we came in and we toured it and we decided what we would love to have for a club. Basically what we have here now, plus another big meeting room that we could use jointly. And GVR said they had some development funds, but they weren't sure how the budget would hold as they finished this building. And they may not have the money that we wanted or would need to build this club room the way it is. So we decided to, each member chipped in $100. We put up a fund. Each member chipped in $100, and we put it to finish this in case we needed it. And I can't justify the veracity of this, but I'm quite sure one of our members donated $10,000, and it's probably still in a slush fund to this day. But anyway, it turned out GVR did have the development funds for most of it. And we only had to pay part of what we wanted. And it worked out really well. And then, of course, the 10-week class continued. We added showtime. Oh, my God, I remember the first showtime. Bill Popejoy showed his Audubon bird pictures. These beautiful birds, And I've forgotten, Jim Michael showed all his scenic cacti and flowers, and I brought the pictures from the motorcycle on the Sturgis. With all the boobies hanging out and everything else. The crowd went nuts. Showtime was born.
But the music was great.
Yeah, it was one of those things. And then the club just kept growing. And I believe right now, as far as I know, we're the largest photography club in the country. I haven't found anybody bigger. which is kind of interesting to say the least. You know, and now things have changed again. That's why we're the photography club, not the camera club. Last time I surveyed, about a year and a half ago, over 60% of our members were using their phones as a primary camera. And I find myself doing it. You know, I have twin granddaughters, and they were graduating from high school last year. And they came over and said, would you do our graduation pictures? And I said, yeah. I used to have a studio for a side job when I was working. So I shot some pictures on the Canon DSLR, and I shot some on my phone at the same time. And I put them all together, and I said to the girls, now, pick out 15, 20 of them that you like, and I'll work on them and edit them and make them look really good. I looked at some of the other students in the high school so I could duplicate that kind of look and feel in the pictures. And then I took them, they picked their pictures, and I looked, and I was surprised more than half of them were off the phone that they picked. And then I asked them why. You know, the color was more subtle, there was this, that. They had reasons, but they didn't articulate them well. They just liked them. And I thought, shoot, that's it.
But you
shoot on a phone.
You've done several SIGs, haven't you, as far as special interest groups? Have you done anything with the phone? I wasn't sure if you have done that or
no. We did an Android. I think we did an Android phone class, but we haven't done much with it. No.
So you're involved in the SIGs. Tell me a little bit more how you got involved with it and what you enjoyed so much about doing that.
Well, Carl Sparfield was doing all the educational stuff for the club, and he got ill and retired from the job, and they didn't have anybody who would play educational chair. So they put me on, elected to the board, and I became the educational chair.
When was this?
Ooh, I'm going to say 2005, 6, that time frame. And so I just decided I'd play it like it was a community college, you know. And we started a couple of special interest groups. The first one was called Rebel Rousers. And it was all the people who Canon Rebel cameras. And they met a couple times a month and just BS'd about their cameras and shared tricks. And I watched that and I said, what a great idea. That's better than a class. So then Linda Gregory started offering elements. Fine art, I think, went on as a SIG. And now, anytime a group of people say, oh, we ought to have a class on that, or we ought to be interested in that, they try and form a SIG with it. Because it's easy for the club. We don't have to plan it. We don't have to do anything but give it the time. And people in the special interest group will then kind of determine what goes on in that group. And it's worked out very well. In fact, I personally, at this point in the game, think that the SIGs are the bread and butter of the club's activities. They really are. Tim Garner's in charge of education now, and he does too. So we just encourage people to start a SIG, you know, if they're interested in a topic. So we have one going on now that I started last year on assignment, where we just give them a topic and people go out and shoot and then bring the pictures back and talk about what they did and make comments on each other's. And the Monday morning multimedia say, my God, 25, 30 people are there every Monday morning. It's full. And the comments and critiques are just excellent. Just excellent. And I'm amazed at that one too, how far they come. The first video that the club experimented with was the club volunteered to make a video on the senior games for GVR. Well, that was back before the video was digital. So, yeah. So, you know, everybody, they were shooting it on these bulky tape cameras, or we had a couple of smaller ones. And then we had to edit it. So we bought this machine called Videonics Editor. And it was about the size of 3 bread boxes. I'm serious. It was this big. And it had you plug multiple VHS players into it and recorders. and then a TV screen. And then you went through and you could do linear editing. It was crude at best, but it did do it. And one night, it took it overnight running after you put all the cues in, of what you wanted edited and stuff. Then it went to work and it rotated these tapes and found the right spots and it did all that kind of stuff and made you a finished product. But I'm serious, I think it took overnight most of the time to do one. It would take it 6-7 hours, But GVR was thrilled. Oh my God. They'd show it at the breakfast for senior games. And so, then the club got a lot of, GVR has been good to us. They really have. And they've taken care of us when we need stuff. So it's kind of nice. And then the video has stayed now with multimedia. They've limited a little bit because they don't want to fool around with AI videos, but it's another interesting story. I think I'm going to bring a couple in just to start
give me
something.
2 cents about AI. Everybody's so, they're either, you give me your 2 cents about, what do you think?
It's an enhancement to what you already do. So if I wanted to make I'll just make an example, an instructional video, I would use the AI to make the whiteboard, maybe a cartoon character or two to introduce a topic, interspiced with what I would regularly do in a video. I don't think I'd attempt a complete AI video. I've tried it. They're terrible. The AI does not, you see these ads on the computer and it says, you just put in all the prompts and we'll make the video. Well, when you get done, it looks like it made the video. It's just not. It doesn't have that touch to it. But I would use bits and pieces. Definitely. I would use bits and pieces.
So it doesn't frighten you that photography and creating images and whether they're real or not, or...
No, I don't care whether it... Well, no, I don't know. What I do is a lot of still photography. I do, I guess we would call them collages, where I'm putting multiple pictures into one. And I don't mind throwing a fake one in there here and there, because it's really hard for me to find a pretty 22-year-old in Green Valley to model for me. So I have to go to the internet. Don't say it said that. So I have to go, and get one online somewhere. Although occasionally, well, let's go back forth to Michigan, and we were spending our summers in Michigan. That wasn't hard to do, but it's much harder to do here.
So what are your thoughts for the future of the club? Maybe let's do it short because we never know how long our future is going to be.
Yeah, and you can clip pieces out.
Yeah, but, maybe going out 5 years, whatever. What do you think might be, how the club could progress and be successful at it in the environment that we're in now?
Well, I think you got to look at the SIGs and see which ones are the most popular and then follow that trend, because that's what everybody wants. So, multimedia is going to be a big deal no matter what. I believe that studio and still editing, are going to be big deals. And you just have to push into those areas and see what happens. I think the best thing for the future of the club is being flexible. Look at your members, what do they want, and try and get it. We haven't done a survey in a long time. Maybe it's time to do one and see where we're going. But I think you just got to look at the membership and say, what do they want? What's going to keep them here? What's going to draw them in? Great Showtime, they love that.
Yeah.
That place was full yesterday. So, I think more and more publicity, sharing, all the prints we hang, the sharing we do with Showtime and stuff. And some of the side projects are all involved, that gets people from the club involved. But generally, I think big thing is be flexible.
Yeah.
Get ready to move with what the membership wants.
I think that...
Because this stuff is changing so fast.
It is.
My God. Who would dream a few years ago that we'd be filming on a phone that has 3 lenses, that does all kinds of stuff. These phones have become an integral part of us.
You look pretty good, too.
I always tell people, I graduated from high school in 1961. Now, who could imagine that in 1961, I would carry a device in my pocket that would let me make phone calls all over the world, communicate with text, read the news. Hell, I can even buy pot online off my phone. You know, in 1961, nobody could imagine that.
Yeah.
So when you ask what are we going to do, is the club going to do, you can't imagine it. It's just going to go
Yeah.
with what's popular and the equipment that changes.
Yeah.